This video is going to be based on the following paper, The Number of People in the Exodus from Egypt, Decoding Mathematically the Very Large Numbers in Numbers 1 and 26 by Colin J. Humphreys, Cambridge, 1998. So I'm using this paper as a basis. I'm not going to be reading strictly from the paper. I took excerpts from it in addition to my own additional research and my own ideas that were not included in the paper. And I left out as much math as I could. I know personally when people speak to me in numbers, my eyes kind of glaze over and I don't really hear what they're saying. So I tried to take out the equations, the formulas, the actual math that Mr. Humphreys goes into, just to try to make it easier for the listener. There will be a link to the full paper as it is written, if you would like to take a look at that. So I'm basing this video on the paper, but it is not the paper itself. So a mathematical analysis is given of the very large numbers of people at the Exodus from Egypt recorded in the Book of Numbers. If there were 273 firstborn Israelites who exceed the number of the Levites, that comes from Numbers 346, and for those that are to be redeemed of the 213 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, which are more than the Levites. So if that statement is correct, then the total number of Israelite men aged over 20 in the census following the Exodus was 5,500, not 603,550, as apparently recorded in Numbers. The apparent confusion in Numbers arises because the ancient Hebrew word Aleph Lamed Pei, which in the pictographic is head, shepherd's staff, and mouth. So that word, it's H505, can mean troop, as in a group, a family, a clan, etc. Can mean a leader, which is based on head, shepherd's staff, and mouth. You would think the head of a congregation holding a shepherd's staff and speaking, that's a leader. A chief, a captain, a guide, etc. Or thousand, numerically often in the sense of a company of men united under a leader, as in captain of thousands, for example. That H505, Aleph Lamed Pei, can be translated as any of those. They would all be correct contextually. The purpose of this video is to give a mathematical argument based on internal evidence within the Book of Numbers, which shows that about 5,500 males over 20 and about 1,000 Levite men were counted at the first census at Mount Sinai. So if there were 5,550 men, and that extra 50, those numbers before 5,500 were just a round number. The calculations he comes up with were 5,550 men aged over 20 at the census. This implies a total of about 10,000 men, again round numbers, aged over 1 month, and hence about 20,000 men and women. To this must be added the 1,000 Levite men aged over 1 month and 1,000 Levite women. Therefore, as a round number, the total of men, women, and children at the Exodus first census was about 22,000 people. It should also be noted that before the first census, there were deaths in the congregation due to Amalek and the golden calf. Exodus 17:8, then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Deuteronomy 25:17 and 18, remember what Amalek did to thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not God. So he killed some, we don't know exactly how many. In Exodus 32:27 and 28, and he said unto them, Thus saith Yah God of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men. Based on the context here, it would appear in this case H505 does indeed mean 1,000, indicating approximately 8,550 people left Egypt, and 3,000, or more than 1/3 of the entire male fighting population, were killed by the Levites after worshiping the golden calf. Table 2 gives the numbers of men over 20 years old recorded in the first census, which is in Numbers chapter 1, interpreted in two ways. If Aleph Lamed Pei is translated as 1,000, and if Aleph Lamed Pei is translated as troop. If Aleph Lamed Pei is translated as troop, then the total number of men aged over 20 is 5,550, as seen on the right. The average number of military men aged over 20 per troop was about 10. The small size of about 10 men per troop is consistent with broadly contemporary information about troop sizes in ancient texts. For example, in the El Armana tablets, King Rib-Adai of Bablos asked the king of Egypt for a contingent of troops of 20 men each, and on another occasion he asked for a troop of 10 men from Nubia. The citations for those are in the paper itself. Some internal objections to the large numbers of people as apparently recorded in Numbers are as follows. Number 1. The following passages seem to state that initially there were too few Israelites to occupy the Promised Land. Exodus 23, 29, and 30. I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased, and inherit the land. Deuteronomy 7:22. And Yah thy God will put out those nations from before thee little by little. Thou mayest not consume them at once, lest the beasts of the field increase upon thee. Joshua 19:9. Out of the portion of the children of Judah was the inheritance of the children of Simeon. For the part of the children of Judah was too much for them. Therefore the children of Judah had their inheritance within the inheritance of them. Yet 2 million Israelites would have easily filled the Promised Land. And until the relatively recent Jewish immigration into Israel, the total population of Palestine was only about 1 million people. Point 2. The instructions for the Passover lamb indicate that some households were too small for an entire lamb. Exodus 12:4. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Point 3. Exodus 14:7 lists 600 chariots of Pharaoh as they pursued Israel by the Red Sea. And he took 600 chosen chariots. That word "and" is implied, so it could read, and he took 600 chosen chariots, all the chariots of Egypt, and captains over every one of them. This number would be too small to strike fear into 2 million people at 3,333 people per chariot, but at 20,000 people, 33 people per chariot is more than reasonable to inspire fear. Point 4. Deuteronomy 4:38, 7:1, 9:1, and 11:23 all say something similar to what Deuteronomy 4:38 says, to drive out nations from before thee, greater and mightier than thou art, to bring thee in, to give thee their land for an inheritance, as it is this day. The word greater has the relevant meanings of large in extent, large in number, or large in intensity, or older in age. Mightier means vast, strong in number, numerous, or countless. There's also Deuteronomy 7:7, where Moses says, Yah did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. And Deuteronomy 21, when thou goest forth to battle against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots, and a people more than thou, be not afraid of them, for Yah thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. More than thou here has relevant meanings of more numerous than, stronger than, or greater than. It seems Moses is plainly telling them they will be outnumbered in the land, but do not worry about your inferior numbers, Yah will prevail. This does not hold with being an army of 603,550 at that time period in history, or really even today. That's a massive army. For an idea of the difference in scale between 22,000 total people and 603,550 men of war only, it may help to visualize the crowd at a sporting event. So this first one looks like it's a concert of some sort in like an outdoor amphitheater, and that's about approximately 20,000 people. This one here is at the Michigan College Football Stadium, and that holds 100,000 people. So it would take 6 of those football stadiums just for the men of war, to say nothing of the 2 million estimated total men, women, and children of all ages. So 20,000 people versus 2 million people. It's a tremendous difference in scale, the amount of people that we're talking about here at the first census. And just an idea of how much real estate, like how much room it would take for the 22,000 people. We can look at like a Major League Baseball stadium. This is the home of the New York Mets. And the entire congregation could have fit comfortably with 2 people per square meter. So like put your arms out to the left and the right. That's like a meter, and then turn 90 degrees, and that's another meter. So that's a square meter. So 2 people standing in that space could fit 20,000 people on a Major League Baseball stadium. The tabernacle itself, the estimated dimensions would fit roughly on the infield of a Major League Baseball stadium. So we have the tabernacle, and then all of the congregation fitting in the outfield and the infield combined. I know that's not how it was set up, obviously they were arranged in camps differently, but just as an idea of the scale required. So that's for 20,000 people. Now to get to 2 million people, do the math, how many Major League Baseball stadiums, or fields, not the stands, just the field, would it take to fit 2 million people? Point number 5. There were too many people for Yah to show his glory, lest Israel think they won the fight without him. Judges chapter 7, verse 2, 3, and 7. And Yah said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand hath saved me. Now therefore go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And then they leave, this is verse 7. And Yah said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. And Yah said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all other people go every man unto his place. Point 6. In our opinion, there was not enough time to increase from 73 males that entered Egypt to 630,550 males that left Egypt, as there were only 4 generations of Israelites born in Egypt. See the genealogy section below. In order to get to that large number in only 4 generations, each of the 73 males must produce 9.5 males, who produce 9.5 males, who produce 9.5 males, who produce 9.5 males. This is not supported by any of the genealogies we are given anywhere in Scripture. In fact, only Benjamin meets the criteria with 10 sons, Genesis 46:21, and the sons of Benjamin were Bela and Becher, and Ashbal, Gera, and Naaman, Ehi, and Rosh, and Mupim, and Hupim, and Ard. While conversely, we see Dan had only 1 son, Genesis 46:23, and the sons of Dan, Hushim. Point 7. If the number of males over 20 years old was 603,550, this implies a total number of males 1 month or more old of about 1 million. Hence a ratio of all males to firstborn males of about 43:1. The average mother must have then had about 83 children, 43 sons and 43 daughters. Taking the numbers as given without the extrapolation of how many males are under 20 years old or too old to fight, it would still produce a ratio of 26:1. So Numbers 3:43 says, and all the firstborn males, by the number of names from a month old and upward, of those that were numbered of them, were 20,200,313. So this is the only formula in the video. 603,550 total males minus the 22,273 firstborn males divided by 22,273 firstborn males gives a total of non-firstborn males, 2 firstborn males. So the average mother must have then had about 52 children, which is 26 sons and 26 daughters. And again, this number of children is nowhere supported in any of the genealogies listed anywhere in Scripture. For the above reasons, it is difficult to accept the very large numbers in Numbers as they stand. So where did the confusion come from? Adding the tribal figures, Numbers 146 gives the total number of Israelite men over 20 years old, as we've said this before, 603,550. We suggest the total in the original text was of the form 598 troops and 5,000s and 550 men. That there were 598 troops containing 5,550 men. And again, so it would have said 598 elap and 5 elap and 550 men. At a later date, when the original meaning was lost, a scribe conflated the numbers and ran the two Aleph Lamed Pei figures, 598 and 5, to yield 603,000, not realizing that two different Aleph Lamed Pei meanings were intended. This is similar to what we might do today when reading passages like Genesis 46:27. All the souls of the house of Jacob which came into Egypt were 70. We would not say 60 and 10 people, we would say 70 people, conflating the two separate numbers together. Similarly, we suggest that 603,550 men, Exodus 38:26, a bigah for every man, that is half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for everyone that went to be numbered, from 20 years old and upward, for 600,000 and 3,550 men, was originally 598 troops and 5,550 men. We suggest a rounded total of about 600,000 men, Exodus 12:37, and the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men besides children, was a rounded up version of 598 troops, misinterpreted as 598,000, rounded up to about 600,000. Thus, when the number of the tribe of Reuben is translated as 46,500 in Numbers 121, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Reuben, were 46,500. The correct translation should be 46 families, 46 groups, 46 troops, containing 500 men, or alternatively, it could be 46 captains or 46 leaders with and 500 men. With this understanding, it seems the text has been speaking to this point all along. Yah commanded Israel to be numbered in the census by their armies. We should not be looking for numbers of individuals, but numbers of armies, regiments, troops, fighting units. Numbers 1 verse 3, the beginning of the census. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. Numbers 2:10. And on the south side shall be the standard of the camp of Reuben according to their armies. I just chose Reuben out of there. Numbers 2, it's all of them say the exact same thing. Each tribe according to their armies, and then the captains. Chapter 2 of Numbers divides the troops into north, south, east, and west camps. We suggest the original numbers can be deduced as follows. Numbers 11, 1 through 9 states there were 74,600 military men in the tribe of Judah, 54,400 in the tribe of Issachar, and 57,400 for the tribe of Zebulun, making a total of 186,400 military men in the east camp. We suggest the correct interpretation is 74 troops and 600 men for Judah, 54 troops and 400 men for Issachar, 57 troops and 400 men for Zebulun, yielding a total of 185 troops and 1,400 men. This was later conflated by a scribe to 186,400 men, although 1,400 men was originally intended. Similarly, in the south camp, there were 1,450 men, in the west camp 1,100 men, and in the north camp 1,600 men. These figures are plausible and reasonable, and we have explained how the misinterpretation has arisen. The total number in the camps is then 5,550 men, in exact agreement with the numbers in the first census. For completeness, we consider the second census, in Numbers 26, taken about 40 years after the first. These numbers are given in Table 4. But first, these were the recorded occurrences of deaths between the first and second census, in addition to all the men of war dying. Numbers 11:1, and when the people complained, it displeased Yah, and Yah heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of Yah burned among them, and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. Numbers 11:33, and while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of Yah was kindled against the people, and Yah smote the people with a very great plague. Numbers 14:37, even those men, the 10 spies, that did bring up the evil report upon the land, died by the plague before Yah. Numbers 14:45, then the Amalekites came down, and the Canaanites which dwelt in that hill, and smote them, and discomfited them, even unto Hormah. Numbers 16:1, 2, and 27, Now Korah and Dathan and Abiram took men, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives and their sons and their little children. Numbers 16:49. Now they that died in the plague were 14 troops and 700 men, beside them that died about the matter of Korah. That could also be 14 leaders. We were just talking about men of renown. So it could be 14 leaders, 14 men of renown, and 700 men. Numbers 21:6. And Yah sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Numbers 25:9. And those that died in the plague were 24 troops. So in the second census, interpreting Aleph Lamed Pei again as troop, the numbers give 596 troops with 5,730 military men, with an average number of 9.6 men per troop. This compares with the first census numbers of 598 troops containing 5,550 men, with an average of 9.3 men per troop. These are the total men of war that entered the promised land with Joshua. Is it likely that 30,000 men hid in ambush, or 30 chief select warriors to enter the city in stealth? Joshua 8, verse 3 and 9. So Joshua arose, and all the people of war to go up against Ai. And Joshua chose out 30 chief mighty men of valor, and sent them away by night. Joshua therefore sent them forth, and they went to lie in ambush, and abode between Bethel and Ai on the west side of Ai. Can we imagine 30,000 people lying in ambush? It seems a bit much. It's more likely that 30 people were selected to enter into stealth into the city to set it on fire when all of the fighting men had left. Now, as the whole book of Joshua and Judges, chapter 17 to the end, takes place within one generation of the second census, we can still use this technique to verify the consistency of H505 as troop, unit, family, etc. with the census numbers given in Numbers 26. Possibly Judges chapter 13 to the end of the book, including all of the Samson story, if the woman in chapter 17 with the 1,100 shekels of silver, verses 1 and 2, and there was a man of Mount Ephraim, whose name was Micah, and he said unto his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from thee, about which thou cursest, if that woman is Delilah, in Judges 16:5, and the lords of the Philistines came up with Delilah, and said unto her, we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. So if that's the same woman, then Judges 13 to the end takes place within a generation of entering the promised land, which would make Micah most likely Samson's son. If that's not the same woman, then Judges chapter 17 to the end. Of particular interest relating to this study is the war with Benjamin. Even though this narrative is placed at the end of the book of Judges, it must have taken place within a generation of entering the land, as this Phinehas is the same Phinehas that stopped the plague of the Moabite woman in Numbers 25. We can confirm in 1 Chronicles 6 that there is no other Phinehas pre-exile in the line of Eleazar and Aaron. Judges 20, 27, and 28. And the children of Israel inquired of Yah, for the ark of the covenant of God was there in those days, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the son of Aaron stood before it in those days, saying, shall I yet go up to battle against the children of Benjamin my brother, or shall I cease? And Yah said, go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into thine hand. So I'm not going to go into the numbers here of the war with Benjamin, but if you want to read that on your own, and each time it says 1,000, look at it in context of this study, and does it mean 1,000? Does it mean troop? Does it mean leader? Does it mean family? Does it mean chief? As a second witness of the time frame being right after entering the land is the story of the Danites going to capture a city in the north in Joshua 18 and 19 and Judges 18. In Joshua, the city is referred to as Lashem. In Judges, it is named Laish. But reading those chapters together, we see it as the same event happening, meaning Judges 18 took place while Joshua was still alive, as Joshua was the one that cast the lots. If the certain Levite is the same in chapter 19 from the previous chapters, then the war against Benjamin also occurs while Joshua is alive. If the certain Levite is not the same as was in the house of Micah, then it is within a generation of Joshua, because Phinehas is still Phinehas. This brings us to the genealogy section previously mentioned. It is also commonly misunderstood that the period of time Israel spent in Egypt was 430 years. This point is important to the current discussion based on the number of generations required to increase from 73 males recorded in Genesis 46:27 to a total of 603,550 fighting males, to say nothing of the ones under 20 years old or too old to fight. So Exodus 12:40 and 41. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the selfsame day came to pass, that all the host of Yah went out from the land of Egypt. This figure of 430 years includes the sojourning in the land of Canaan. A careful reading shows the text is saying, the sojourning of the children of Israel, who at that time were dwelling in Egypt, was 430 years. In the Septuagint, Exodus 12:40 says, and the sojourning of the children of Israel, while they sojourned in the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, was 430 years. In actuality, the time in Egypt was most likely half that figure, at 215 years in Canaan and 215 years in Egypt, though we cannot be precise to the year based on incomplete information in the text as shown below. So the genealogy of Moses, it's Levi, Kohath and his sister Jochebed, Amram, and Moses. Jochebed is Moses' mother, as we'll see. Exodus 6:16 through 20. And the second witness is in Numbers 26:57 and 59. And these are the names of the sons of Levi according to the generations, Gershon and Kohath and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. And the sons of Kohath, Amram and Izhar and Hebron and Uzziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. And Amram took him Jochebed, his father's sister, to wife. So Kohath's sister was Jochebed, and she bare him Amram and Moses, and the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. Numbers 26:59, and the name of Amram's wife was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, whom her mother bare to Levi in Egypt. And she bare unto Amram Aaron and Moses and Miriam their sister. So we see here that Moses' mother was the literal daughter of Levi, and she was born in Egypt. Levi and Kohath were born in Canaan, so their dates are not helpful in this calculation. According to Genesis 46:11, Amram was not among the group that came from Canaan, therefore was born in and lived his whole life of 137 years in Egypt. We do not know how long into the sojourn he was born. Further, Moses was 80 years old at the time of the Exodus. It's Exodus 7:7. We are not told whether Amram was alive when Moses was born, as he does not appear in the story, but must have been alive at the conception a year earlier. Assuming he did die at or around the time of Moses' birth, we tentatively get 216 years from Amram's birth to the Exodus. For a second witness of the time scale and generations involved, we can look at the genealogy of Zelophehad, which goes Joseph, Manasseh, Machir, Gilead, Hefer, Zelophehad, and his daughters. That looks like more than 4 generations. Remember, Joseph and Manasseh were already alive in Egypt before the rest of the family came down. We can see Genesis 50:23, and Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who in this genealogy is Gilead, were brought up upon Joseph's knees. So Gilead was alive when Joseph was alive. Numbers 27:1, and the second witness is in Numbers 26:29 through 33. Then came the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. So Joseph was alive to see his great-grandson, baby Gilead. And Zelophehad, Gilead's grandson, was of the generation that died in the wilderness. This is consistent with the other genealogies that we have in completeness as well. Nashon, the prince of the tribe of Judah, for example. There's just not enough generations to go from 73 males to 603,000 males. Also perhaps of interest to note, using H505 with a meaning other than 1,000, comes in Exodus 20, 5 and 6, and Deuteronomy 5, 9 and 10. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them, for I, Yah thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto the families of them that love me and keep my commandments. Exodus 34, 6 and 7. And Yah passed before him and proclaimed, Yah God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for the families, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and upon the children's children unto the third and to the fourth generation. That is traditionally translated as thousands, so showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me. The implication is it means thousands of generations. But does it? If we look at the context, he's talking about familial curses, generational curses within families. Right? The father does something, the children are cursed. So if the father does something good, then the family will be blessed, showing mercy unto the families of them and forgiving the family's transgression and sin, rather than just a thousand, forgiving the sin of thousands. To me, that doesn't really make as much sense as forgiving the sins of the families. Numbers 10, 35 and 36. And it came to pass, when the ark set forward, that Moses said, Rise up, Yah, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee. And when it rested, he said, Return, O Yah, unto the many thousands of Israel, or return, O Yah, unto the many families of Israel, the many tribes, the many troops, the many armies of Israel. To me, again, that makes more sense than just a nondescript general return to the thousands of Israel. There's an age-old debate, really, as to the meaning of saints in this passage. Now, knowing the true number of the Israelites in the Exodus, it seems to be plainly speaking that the congregation are the saints. No need for interpretation. Deuteronomy 33, 2 through 5. And he said, Yah came from Sinai, and rose up from Seir unto the saints. He shined forth from Mount Paran. He came with 10,000s of Israelites. From his right hand went a fiery law for the saints. Yea, he loved the people. All the Israelites are in Moses' hand. And the saints sat down at Moses' feet. Every one shall receive of Moses' words. Moses commanded the saints a law, even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. And Moses was a king in Jeshurun, when the heads of the people of the tribes of Israel were gathered together. It's not speaking of angels, it's not speaking of anything other than the children of Israel in their 10,000s, plural. They came with 20,000 people. They came with 10,000s of saints. There's also a distinction that I found between the description, the stars of heaven for multitude, and sand of the sea for multitude. And not surprisingly, there are approximately 10,000 visible stars. And the sand of the sea is innumerable. So it would seem that Yah is specifically referencing the stars for the time of the Exodus, and the sand of the sea for the time after that, and until the end of the age. So only one time are both promises referenced together. Genesis 22:17. That in blessing I will bless thee, Abraham, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. So these are the star references. Genesis 26:4. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Deuteronomy 1:10, 11. Yah your God hath multiplied you, and behold, ye are this day as the stars of heaven for multitude. And Yah, the God of your fathers, make you 1,000 times so many more as ye are, and bless you as he hath promised you. Deuteronomy 10:22. Thy fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons, and now thy God has made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude. Deuteronomy 28:62. And ye should be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for multitude, because thou would not obey the voice of Yah thy God. That's it. Those are the only references in all of Scripture to the stars of heaven, and they all occur within the Torah. Now here are the sand references. So Genesis 32:12, and thou said, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. Genesis 41:49, and Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea very much, and he left numbering, for it was without number. Right? So it's equivalent to an innumerable, cannot be numbered, right? The sand of the sea. Whereas the stars is a specific number. It's about 10,000. Joshua 11:3 and 4. So notice we skipped over. We went from Genesis to Joshua. We skipped over the Exodus because they were the stars of heaven in the Exodus, not the sand of the sea. Joshua 11:3 to 4. And to the Canaanite on the east and the west, and the Amorite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Jebusite in the mountains, and to the Hivite under Hermon in the land of Mizpah. And they went out, they and all their hosts with them, much people, even as the sand that is upon the seashore in multitude, with horses and chariots very many. Judges 7:12. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number, as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And speaking of the enemies of Israel in the time, 1 Samuel 13:5. And the Philistines gathered them together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is upon the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash eastward from Beth-aven. And I do think 1,000 means 1,000 there, because we're speaking of the Philistines, the enemies. They are the sand. 2 Samuel 17:12. Therefore I counsel that all Israel be generally gathered unto thee, from Dan even to Beersheba, as the sand that is by the sea for multitude, and thou go out to battle in thine own person. So now that we're in 2 Samuel, Israel has increased now to be sand themselves. 1 Kings 4:20 and 29. And Israel and Judah were many, as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding exceeding much, and largeness of heart, even as the sand that is on the seashore. And Isaiah 10:22. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. And I hope you will search this out, and when you read the word 1,000 in Scripture, think about which meaning it actually means. Does it mean 1,000, or does it mean leader, chief, troop, tribe, unit, fighting regiment, army, so forth?